channel. So today I am drawing Lilo and Stitch in my personal art style. Now I've been wanting to try this for a while, where I take a specific character or person or thing in pop culture and I recreate it in my own art style. Now you could say everything you draw is in your own art style, but this time I want to try and see if I can reimagine it as if I was the one that created this thing. So we're gonna change things up a little bit and we're gonna see what I create. So this time it's Disney's Lilo and Stitch, and I'm so excited for this one. So let's dive right in and make a drawing.
So I started off with a sketch on my iPad Pro, and when I like to sketch, sometimes I prefer to sketch with like really soft sort of airbrushy brushes, and this is because I like to play around with the shapes and stuff, and using a large sort of really soft airbrush to sketch sort of prevents me from worrying too much about the details, and just mainly start on working out the shapes and the overall form and the silhouette before I actually go in with the details. Now after this I sort of soften the sort of opacity of the really sort of rough sketch, and then I will go over the top with a bit more of a smaller, harder brush, where I would finally go in with the details. And I find this way of sketching really helps to push me, sort of add a little bit more fluidity to my sketches, and try and just get me to sort of, you know, work out the shapes and all of that before I worry too much about the details. Now for the line art, I am doing it digital again. I just really am loving my digital line art at the moment. I'm having so much fun, especially with my last few drawings where I drew a demon and a zombie as well. So if you haven't seen them, go check them out. But I'm really having a lot of fun with that sort of digital line art feel, where you can just get it really nice and crisp. And my favorite line art brush currently is the Technical pen on Procreate, which is the app that I'm using to draw. I really love that pen, and I really love how you can sort of customize these brushes a little bit by changing the settings around, and they have this really cool sort of streamlined setting where it will sort of stabilize your lines a little bit to make them look really nice and fluid, and I really love that, and I find that it's really useful for getting my line art to look really nice and smooth. So now I've printed it out onto some Express-It blending card, which is my main paper that I love to use. I do like to sort of change around the papers that I use, but Express-It blending card is still my favorite card for Copic markers because it just blends really well, but the colors stay really bright and vibrant on this compared to, say, a mixed media card or a Bristol card, which I find on those the colors are a little bit more subdued, which is fine because sometimes I'm looking for that kind of look. But for these sort of slightly more cartoony sort of styles, I really want to push the colors and the contrast, and when I want to do that I go for Express-It blending card. Now I really love how I can sort of just print off the liner onto these, and it just looks really nice and clean as if I drew it myself, or you know, a little bit better. Anyways, so for the coloring, as you can see, I am using my Copic markers for this, and these are my favorite sort of medium to use. They're just so quick and easy, and I can get some really nice blends, which I've been really happy with playing around with at the moment. And yeah, so for the sand on this picture, I decided to go with just a sort of slight speckly texture, which I used a few different yellows and a few different beiges and browns, and then after that I actually went over it with just a sort of light pale yellow, and that just sort of added a sort of yellow color to the whole part of the sand, and also blended those sort of speckles a little bit, and I'm pretty happy with them. So for the overall character design of these characters, obviously they are Disney characters, so they're going to be very very sort of notable and, you know, easy to, you know, spot. I want to change a few things up with them just because it was, you know, this is a sort of challenge for me to draw it in my own style as if I sort of created them, which I definitely didn't, but this is a reimagining of the characters, if you will. So for Stitch, obviously there is the most changes on him. Not that I don't love the character, I absolutely love him, but it was really fun just sort of playing around with shapes and styles for him, and I decided to go with a sort of scruffy look. So his fur is definitely a bit longer in this, and it's sort of messy and spiky, and I really love the way that that looks because it just gives him this like fuzzy, goofy, cute appearance to him. And I really had fun with just playing with the shapes of his ears because he is, you know, known for having these big goofy ears, and I decided to go with sort of pointy ears that like are sort of, they're sort of rounded but they're also pointing up towards the sky, and they're sort of exaggerated a little bit upwards as if he's like, you know, almost got like big rabbit ears sort of. And I actually really like that because it gives him a goofy look while still staying slightly true to the original. So obviously I kept his big nose. I felt like if I changed that up it would just not look like him at all, so I kept his big round nose, but I added a few little whiskers on either side, which I find are really cute and just adds to the overall goofy cuteness of him. Now for Lilo, I wanted to obviously keep most of her, you know, details the same, because if you changed anything you wouldn't really be able to tell that it's the character. So I definitely kept her skin tone and her hair and her clothes the same, but I drew it as if I was just drawing a regular girl. Obviously she is a regular normal girl, but I decided to just draw her in sort of my style that I draw humans in, and I really like the results, and I really like the flowers I put in her hair. I really love drawing flowers, and I find that they're really fun to sort of play with the colors, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. So for the sort of poses and stuff, I did use a reference for this, although I still changed it up quite a bit. I just tried to get the overall feel of the reference photo the same, and I decided to have her holding a crayon because in the movie she actually draws a picture of Stitch with these crayons and shows his badness levels and his goodness levels. So that's why she's holding a red crayon in her hand at the moment. You can't see the drawing or anything. I guess she's either, you know, contemplating drawing it, or just, you know, maybe she's using those same crayons to just draw something else. I don't know. So for the background, I had a lot of fun drawing in that ocean. I wanted to sort of have a slightly more sort of realistic textured ocean, obviously still a cartoony feel, but I wanted to have the ocean have like waves and stuff in them, and have just a really bright part in the middle of the ocean where you could probably see the reflection of the sun. I didn't actually draw the sun in this image, but though I feel like it's probably up higher in the sky, but the reflections are there. And I love the soft yellows that I put in the ocean where the brightest part of the ocean is. I find that it just looks really nice and draws your eye into the middle of the illustration where obviously the characters are. So I wanted to play around with overall patterns in this one too, because I find when I use more patterns in my artwork, I really like the results and I like how it looks. So I decided to go with that as well. So there's a few patterns in this. There's a pattern on the hammock that they're sitting on, and it's just a sort of rough flower shape. I didn't want to go too into detail with that because I knew it would clash a bit with the patterns on her dress, so I just kept those very, very simple, and it kind of reminds me a bit of Ditto now that I'm looking at it, but I really like it and it's sort of simple but good. So the patterns on her dress is basically the same as in the movie, or in at least the reference photo that I have, like that I'm looking at. And it's basically that sort of like leaf design on a red dress, and I think it's really, really cute. So the patterns on Stitch, obviously, I couldn't get the colors exactly right because I don't have a Copic marker that is Stitch's perfect color, but I find that, you know, it's okay because this is a bit of a reimagining, a retelling of this sort of story, so his colors aren't exactly right, but for me designing him, those are the colors that I picked, and I think that they're pretty good. So it's a slight sort of purpley blue with some sort of normal bluish sort of shadows in there, and there's also a bit of a light blue in there too. So for the patterns on the wood textures of the hammock and the sort of torchlight thing, I decided to go with a bit of dark blue and a bit of a lighter sort of coral sea color. And I really like how they push this sort of blues and greens in this. And yeah, so here's the final results of this illustration, and I had so much fun drawing this. This was really fun for me, and honestly this is probably one of my favorite illustrations that I've done lately. I just really like the colors. I really like the shadows and the highlights and the brightness and the overall vibrance of this illustration, and also the fact that the line art is very sort of bold and nice, and yeah, I love it. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please smash like and subscribe to get your scribble fix in the future. Check out my other videos. I did a vampire and a demon and a zombie. So yeah, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye everyone.